you are a higher caliber drug dealer because it seems like you use the internet as your payment system, basically.
Yeah, I had laboratories in every continent. So the real play in the long run is leveraging everything I've created for the neurotechnology industry. We're taking this a whole nother level. We're understanding addiction, criminal mentality, early childhood trauma, to a whole nother level. Mm-hmm. My AI basically figures out what they're struggling with.
I just got out of jail and I ain't going back.
I'm here with Spencer Cook. It's Get Out, Stay Out, our inaugural show, and we're here with Spence Cook, okay, an incredible individual who I believe is the progenitor, one of the starters, one of the founders, I believe, of the dark web. Am I close to that or no?
I plead the fifth.
Okay. Okay. Why do they call it the dark web?
It's just hard to get on.
Okay. And has that to do with black people?
No.
Okay, just asking.
It's actually easy to get on.
Okay.
But it's hard to put some electronic walls up to prevent the world from seeing you.
Okay, so basically, let's just real quick.
Anyone can get on the dark web.
Okay, anyone can get on it, but in other words, you're going to conduct business on the dark web. You'd have to have some kind of encrypted software behind you or hardware. If I'm a guy that wants to use the dark web, obviously I'm going to use it because I want to do something hypothetically. I'm a cocaine dealer. I'm pretty good, and I got 2 kilos.
You're going to attempt to cover up your IP address, but anyone can find you.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyone can find me, but in other words, they can trace it back. Because I heard that the encryption stuff that the government has, I heard that the government cracked it, and that a lot of guys are getting pinched.
Yeah, it's all basically ran by the government.
Yeah.
The government can get into any way they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, we're not going to dwell on dark web today. What we're going to dwell on today is Spence actually got out. He's staying out, and he developed a program that basically takes people that are addicted, and in 40 days, was it 40 minutes a day, 40 days, you can actually cure your drug addiction. Now, it's funny.
I wouldn't say cure. I would say prevent.
Prevent.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. This is very important. I do have some drug addicts that could be used as guinea pigs, okay, that could actually probably benefit from program. Not in the criminal system, but they were in the criminal system because honestly, when you do drugs, usually you wind up in the criminal justice system one way or the other. Either you're using and dealing, or you're actually dealing, period, as opposed to using. What's your take on that subject?
If they want to change their lives around, they got a good start. If they don't want to change their lives, they're never going to get anywhere.
Is it preventive, or is it something that if I'm already addicted, can it cure my addiction? Not cure it, but curb it?
It'll teach you a lot about yourself on how to not only just stop doing drugs and drinking and
right.
Living a life of crime, but also giving you the light bulb moment in your mind on a different way of life.
Right, but in other words, if I came to you right now, let's say I'm a heroin addict, and I came at you and I said, "Hey, Spence," and you say, "Listen, I could hopefully curb your tendency to your predilection towards your affinity for heroin. I could curb that."
I'm not looking to curb anyone's anything.
Okay.
I'm looking to stop behaviors that make them go back to that.
So would you make me? Can I be sober?
If you want to be.
Okay. So my question to you is: the 40 minutes a day, is that after I'm addicted, or?
Well, the program is geared towards people of outpatient levels of care. So if you're at a certain point in the ball game, you're going to need an inpatient facility and doctor supervision.
Okay, so in other words, I'm already kicked it. I kicked it out of my system. I went cold turkey, but now you want to stay cold turkey.
Right.
So you want to stay. You are a stay sober guy.
Right.
I want to stay. You want to stay sober?
You could be using before you take my program, but it depends on how much you're using and how deep you really.
Okay,
go.
now I understand it better. So in other words, what you're really saying is you're a stay sober program.
Yeah.
It's
like easy to stop doing drugs and drinking.
You can just stop.
You can theoretically just stop and get a couple days in.
Okay.
But the hard part is living that way.
Right.
Day in,
Maintain
day
the
out.
lifestyle
Yeah.
of actually being sober, loving yourself, but with not having to put, drugs in your system.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's to stay sober. Okay, so he's actually, are you at liberty to say any transactions that you got pending? Possibly that might be something beneficial, because I know you were looking at certain prisons to get your program into, and you're going through the stages.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can say that I'm in some legal negotiations with some pretty big entities who own a lot of prisons and
Okay. Private prisons, obviously.
Private prisons, yeah.
Okay, and you might have an NDA until you're consummating a deal, I'm sure.
Correct.
Okay, so if that's the case, in other words, he can't speak about it right now, but we happen to know the skinny on this, that he's actually getting his program most likely into a setting where people that committed drug-related activities and wound up locked up can actually, when they get sober through the sober people, okay, I guess the rehab people who make them sober, this man keeps them sober. He stays them sober.
85% of every inmate who walks into prison has either an alcohol or substance abuse problem.
Well, hold on.
They have paperwork.
Okay, I'm gonna have to. I'm pretty familiar on this subject. 85%. I'll tell you why the 85% is based on the research we did. Is because we have a wonderful system of plea deals, and it seems that everybody out there has a drug problem, which some people didn't even touch drugs. I've interviewed guys at probation, at parole. I had no drug problem. My lawyer told me, if I don't tell him I got a drug problem, I ain't gonna get this plea. Hell no. And of course, the judges used to get paid to put him in the rehab. And some of the rehab guys, we already did exposés on those guys.
But
So,
if in the federal prison system, if there's no proof that you were on some sort of drug or narcotic or alcohol while
Right.
you were committing the crime, you're not getting any, you're not reaping any time off on any drug program.
Well, just so we're clear, my research was based on state prisoners because I do mostly state work. I haven't gone to the feds yet. I haven't had that pleasure yet of going to the feds and actually.
It's hard getting into the feds.
Like I said, I
had to work real hard to get in.
We don't get in. No. We tried to get in thing. Let me tell you something. We went on LinkedIn, me and Charlie, and we tried really hard to be altruistic and be magnanimous and say, hey man, we're going to the conferences, we're doing all this wonderful stuff because we want to help these guys, these guys with these draconian laws. We got to help them. And it turns out it's more of a rah-rah session. It's a lot of do-gooders that have like little sessions where they pat each other on the back, give each other awards, and they do absolute shit. Okay? And then me and Charlie came to the epiphany moment that, holy crap, we got to associate ourselves with people that are actually doing shit. Spence is actually doing shit. He's actually, in an arena, going out, meeting people, and trying to change the system for real. Okay? We're going to get into why in a minute because, look, we're not going to tell our audience about nanotechnology and quantum physics because that's a whole other conversation. Just know this. If you get sober and you want to stay sober, this man put a program together. You just give yourself 40 minutes of your life a day for 40 days. You can actually stay sober. But the key to that, of course, is always going to be you. Because the key to any change is always the person that's going to actually initiate that. If you don't have the will, there is no way. Okay? You give them the way, but they got to have that will. Because I know a lot of drug addicts.
But we have a lot of incorporated science in this program. It's not just a program. No two people can take the same program twice.
That's right.
It's physically impossible.
That's right, because you're using artificial intelligence that's custom tailored to the person's experience based on their answers.
So how they function on my app, my AI basically figures out what they're struggling with.
Okay.
And when we get you to trigger the red flags in my algorithms,
Right.
we then tweak our follow-up questions specifically to what you're struggling with.
Now let me ask you a question. I'm a guy in the streets. This is gonna come up. Well, how do I know it works? How do I know it's not bullshit? How do I know some guy that went to the joint who's smart as hell decided to put a program together and put the wool over people's eyes? How do I know? What do you say to
How do you
that?
know your cocaine's not laced with fentanyl?
Well, that's another subject altogether. You're right.
You just try it.
Exactly.
My question: you have faith in something, and when you're at that point when you have to question,
Right.
you're on your knees where you've tried everything. What do you have to lose?
Well, this is my bigger question. My question was, if I'm going to be in front of people that making decisions that are going to actually take your program and put it in their facilities, I'm sure they're going to ask those questions of, hey, how beneficial is this, and what research are they going to do? Like, in other words, are you going to do clinical research on this?
Yes, so we have the largest peer-reviewed study happening right now inside the justice system.
Okay.
We've tested it on probably close to 300 people already.
Okay.
We've had amazing results.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it doesn't work on everyone. If you think you're fooling yourself,
Right.
and you think you're conning the program,
Right.
we're gonna see right through you.
Okay.
You're not gonna get the results.
Now, let me tell you, the reason why you're on this show, Get Out, Stay Out, is because, we feel there's 3 areas, could be 4, but 3 areas that really help guys and girls, incarcerees, get out and stay out. Number 1, gotta be drug-free, man. No one in the universe is going to want to deal with a drug addict out there he can't do anything functional in the society when your only passion is to get you, and you're fiending all the time for a drug. That's not going to be beneficial for you in the get out, stay out, because you're going to wind up getting illegal hustles. You're going to wind up going out there robbing and beating people to get to drugs. Okay. Next, housing stability. You need a place to live, housing. Okay. The next one is employment, which is what we do at Plain After the Can. We're more into the economics. You have to have viable income. You have to have gainful employment. Okay, but you're not going to solve the overall problem of getting out and staying out unless you got those 3 things working together. The drug-free, Spence, I call him Spence. Drug-free, stay sober. Okay, it's you input that'll help you get out and stay out. Plus, you can make some money after that. Now, again, how many people in prison, Spence said it, over 85% are related to the drugs. Now, we know the problem is the plea deals, I got it. But the bottom line is a lot of drug-related activities are in. Now, here's a quick question for you, because I think it's perfect timing for your 40-day program. And that's what's it called exactly? 40?
Sober and 40.
Sober and 40. Sorry, Sober and 40. It's a great time for this because fentanyl. Fentanyl is rearing its ugly head. It's coming out there. We had that guy Jelly Bean. What's his name? Jelly Roll. I'm sorry, Jelly Roll, not Jelly Bean. Jelly Roll, who went and he came out and he says, "Hey, we got to curb this because what happened? States are changing the laws. Some states are making it worse than crack was. These are new crack laws coming out where they're putting guys in jail for life, putting guys in jail for 60 years if they get caught distributing fentanyl, understandably so. But what happens to the people who are addicts that are actually selling this stuff because they're trying to, get their supply? And you're a perfect scenario right now for actually why we need this program right now, because of the fentanyl epidemic. There's another drug coming out of nowhere. The minute we solved crack was solved years ago, but now it's fentanyl. You must come across that now. Are you coming across that in the core civic? I mean, when you're dealing with your prison system?
I come across an everything problem with everything. I come across people, everyone's got their own thing. Yes, fentanyl is bad, but fentanyl is being laced in all drugs.
Right.
To the point where people don't even know the drugs they're taking. And just like how words, throughout the years evolve,
right,
and meanings evolve,
right,
these drugs evolve.
Right.
The root core of this whole thing is you have a desire to live outside of yourself. And you're willing to find whatever drug that you've convinced yourself that you need to use that to live outside of who you really are. It's this desire to be to mask the feelings and the emotions and not live life the way it's supposed to be lived. And it's that desire. People convince themselves they do things better when they're high or drunk. And that's just delusion.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. I got to tell you this. I know guys do a lot of marijuana. Okay, and a lot of times they have amazing realizations. I don't want to call it trips, but some of the matter of fact, if you go back in history,
that's just what they want to tell everybody. They don't tell you. They're just showing you the good parts of it, of how it enhances their life and how they do things artistic and creative and create. But they don't show you the other half. It's like a gambler. A gambler will only tell you and brag about the times he wins, but he never wants to tell you about the times he loses or when life really sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm gonna tell you, I have a theory on that, very simple theory. Okay, because I'll be the first to tell you that, marijuana has been my friend for 40 years. And it happened when I couldn't sleep one day. A little less than 40 years, but when I couldn't sleep, I took it for insomnia way back when. But the added benefit to me is I hung out with a lot of people that smoked a lot of pot before the edibles came out, and I noticed something that was like a revelation to me, is the fact that, if you're really smart when you start smoking weed, all of a sudden you become a genius when you're smoking it. But if you're a real idiot smoking weed, you become this like moron. I call pot, it's like an amplifier.
Hey, look, whatever floats your boat and whatever works for you. But in my experiences with addicts and drug addicts and people that I know,
right,
real addicts can't just smoke weed.
No.
A real addict can't just have a sip of alcohol. No. I envy people who can just have a glass of wine and put it down and act normal.
Yeah.
I can't even have a sip.
Right.
I can't even enjoy a blunt with you.
Right.
I'm not wired that way.
No, you're 100% correct. As a matter of fact, you're 100% correct, because I have family members that actually, you're 100%. They
I wish I was.
wish
I was wired. I really wish I was wired that way.
Right.
But apparently, I destroy the world when I do.
Well, this is one of the reasons why
I destroy myself. I destroy everyone around me, and I'm just not the person you want to be around when I'm doing drugs.
That's why I brought the subject up, because obviously you're not just a guy that developed a sober and 40 program. You experienced the drugs.
Yeah,
firsthand.
I was shooting heroin since I was 17 years old.
Exactly.
The pills at 16.
Right.
Drinking since I was 12. My whole young life, drugs and drinking and crime. And,
right.
And
then let me ask you, how did that lead to your incarceration? Did that have a factor in your? Obviously, it must have. Your brain must have been going a different.
Well, if you weren't a full-time criminal, I didn't know you.
Okay.
No half-time criminals.
Right.
I used to commit 15 felonies before lunchtime.
Yeah. Okay. No dilettantes in your world. That was it. It's either all in or not in.
If you weren't an alcoholic or a drug addict and a criminal, 24/7, you would not belong in my world.
What was your specialty?
I loved psychedelics. I loved heroin. I
don't mean drugs. Oh. What was your specialty crime area? What was your special hustle? When you were doing drugs and your mind was going in, how did you...
I was a drug dealer.
You were a drug dealer. And they say cocaine, heroin, meth. What kind of drugs are you dealing?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Well, is your case over?
Yeah.
Are you adjudicated? Can you ever get double jeopardy?
No.
So, why not tell the people?
I don't want to enlighten people on the details, because the details really don't matter anymore.
Well, I'm going to express the audience that you're talking to right now. That's probably the details they're looking for, because you turned your life around when you went into drug dealing. I got a lot of guys out there.
I had laboratories in every continent. Okay,
well, that's a whole different ball of shit. Okay, what I'm saying to you is I got a lot of young guys that are just, basically selling coke, selling crack, and they're doing illegal hustles. We're trying to get them into legal hustles. Now here you are. You did illegal hustles years ago. You paid the price. Did you go to jail? Did you go to prison?
Yeah, I've been locked up many times. My last stint was, I ultimately did 7 years in the feds.
Okay.
Forfeited a lot of money.
Drug dealing.
Darknet related stuff, yeah.
Okay, so it's not...
All pertaining to drugs.
Okay, so you okay, I understand what you're saying. You are a higher caliber drug dealer, because it seems like you use the internet as your payment system, basically.
Yeah.
Your internet.
Whatever I did on the street, I never got caught for.
Exactly. So
but it was all drug related.
Right, but you did it through the dark web. Yeah. Basically, you use the dark web as your payment gateway, basically. Okay, which
my drug dealers were the post office men.
Really? Okay, so you actually distributed to the so that's how they got the postal inspectors nailed your ass. Is that what you're saying?
I had the DEA, FBI on me. They both teamed up together to arrest me.
Yeah, because I heard the postal
Homeland
inspectors.
Security.
Once you go through the mail, that's it.
Once you make a phone call, that's it. That's federal.
Right.
You're using a federal device to conduct a criminal transaction. That's federal.
What made you ever become a drug dealer?
ever since I was a young kid, I was a drug dealer. It was just easy. It was easy money.
Would you start with weed?
Yeah, weed, steroids,
Mm-hmm.
and then it transgressed, and you go from one little wormhole to another wormhole to another.
Hey, listen. The only reason I'm asking these questions is twofold, but the most important reason is because if you're a guy that has sober at 40, I want to qualify you as this is not your average guy who became a junkie and all of a sudden he developed some weird ass program. No. This is a very profound...
So it's interesting because in the sobriety worlds that I live in, you don't really embellish or talk about the details of the past, and you talk more about the solution. But I understand that you need me to qualify for your audience and let them know that I wasn't just a crackhead living on the corner.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because we had the pleasure of hanging out with... a lot of do-gooders, nice people, greatest people you're gonna meet, man. They're the most amazing, well-intentioned people I've ever met in my life. But they said, Timmy, you can't call guys that leave the joint felons. You can't call them criminally impacted, just involved in the returning. They're not returning citizens. They're citizens. They're not. Okay, yeah.
You can call me whatever you want.
Okay, but hear me out. Just recently, Donald Trump gets convicted of 34 felony charges, and all of a sudden, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of the do-gooders, oh, thank God that convicted felon
they're just playing politics.
Right. Exactly. Now, and the reason I'm saying it is because I had another conversation with a guy in the same arena, and he says, well, don't use the word junkie, it's a bad word. No, it's not a bad word. It's actually almost a badge of courage. If you were a junkie and now you're not a junkie and you conquered it, man, you're an extra, you're done.
But you did something right.
Exactly. So, and the reason I'm saying that is because most of the audience is not going to believe a guy who developed a program sober at 40 unless they know the credentials behind the guy. You started out young. You were a young, ambitious hustler. Like every one of you people on the streets. Young, ambitious, hustlers. You wanted to make the Benjamins. Did you want to make the Benjamins back then?
Yeah.
You wanted to get paid.
But at a point after I made the Benjamins, I didn't really care about the Benjamins anymore. It was about my disease and feeding the beast. Okay. But in the beginning, it was about the Benjamins.
Well, what I'm saying to you is that qualifying you as a guy who had a drug problem and then conquered the drug problem, but also profited from it because obviously...
I also had a thinking problem.
A thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. Explain that to me. What do you mean a thinking problem? Did drugs affect your thoughts? Is that what you're saying or not?
Yeah, but the thinking problem brings you to why you're doing the drugs and why you think you can cut corners and do, and not get caught. Those are all thinking problems, and I address that all in my program.
Okay.
This super optimistic thought of I can get away with this crime.
Impervious. You're impervious to capture.
People don't even realize
you're Superman.
There are statute limitations on crimes. Like you think you're getting away with a crime today, you might.
Right.
You probably will.
Right.
But you got to get away with that crime for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And some crimes don't have statute of limitations.
Murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're right. As a matter of fact, that's why, again, case in point, California, they got a law that if you're a chomo, a pedophile, you got parole for life. Wow, parole for life. Okay, where they gonna move those guys? Don't know.
It's a setup. You're gonna violate.
Of course. But at any rate,
we call that the payment plan in prison. You're on the payment plan.
Is that what it is?
You might get out in 3-4 years, but you're gonna do another 4 years, and then you're gonna get out. You're gonna do another 4 years, and you're constantly paying the feds.
That's a cycle. It's the cycle of recidivism. It just keeps going.
You're gonna do more and more and more.
And again, once again, sober at 40 is all about solving the recidivism problem, making
Absolutely.
the guys get out, stay out. You got to be drug free.
But people don't realize an addict really destroys a family.
Oh, absolutely.
One addict will destroy a whole family.
Absolutely.
But if you help that addict get back on his feet, suddenly a whole family comes back together.
Yeah.
We're the problem.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm just helping one person. I see this on a metaphysical level. You're helping people that you don't even know exist.
You're helping society as a whole, because if you do that, let me just tell you something else. In New York, it's $33,274 per annum per year, okay, to house an inmate.
It's mostly medical.
In state prisons.
Yeah.
Just so you know, state. I'm not doing the Fed numbers, okay, but this is state. 33,274. You solve one addict that doesn't go out there and start burglarizing houses and robbing cars and stealing catalytic converters, and all of a sudden that guy is reformed. You just saved the state 33 large. You do that times 10 guys, it's 330. Next thing you know, you're saving billions. Okay, so your program actually does work. Okay, but for the savings cost alone is astronomical. How far along is this program? When are we going to see this program actually being in?
So we're implementing it and doing beta trials inside certain select prisons. I can't talk about it right now.
Okay.
But we're trying to release this on the Apple App Store within the next month.
Okay.
We've done about 18 updates on the Apple App Store beta version.
Okay.
And we're about 3-4 weeks away from releasing this to the public.
Now, when you say on the App Store, does that mean that an average person could just go to that store?
Yeah.
And not, they don't have to be a convict?
A lot of people are just ashamed of asking for help.
Okay.
They got their lives together. They got 1 or 2 jobs, barely keeping the house afloat, just making ends meet. Their relationships are slowly deteriorating. They haven't lost it all yet. This is where you can reverse course. You don't have to ask for help. You just have to go on an app and download the app and get help.
Okay. So it's generally, and was it $149?
No, actually, we've just changed our business model. No one has to pay out of pocket right now.
Talk to me. How are you monetizing your business model?
If you have Medicaid or private insurance, we're taking you.
Okay, so you've convinced Medicaid to make it a coverable expense. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't have to convince Medicaid.
No, I'm asking. I don't know.
I didn't have to make that sale.
You didn't have to make the sale.
No.
So Medicaid said this is good for sobriety purposes. We could save a lot of money as well.
It's telehealth.
Telehealth. Okay.
It falls in that bracket.
Okay. Wow, so that's pretty sad. And now tell me about the monetization model. How you get paid?
I get paid from private insurance. Or
okay. Okay, I know I asked it, but my brain was just going, wait a minute. How's he getting Medicaid? So in other words, you gotta put an insurance claim in.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to have a doctor. You must have a doctor.
We have doctors on staff.
Okay, I'm gonna say, because I know you're not a doctor, are you?
No, I'm not. I have.
If you try to get paid without being a doctor, then you're going back. You're not gonna get out and stay out, bro.
No, my head doctor owns 3 practices. One in Brooklyn, Long Island, and Manhattan. He's got 65 psychologists who work under him, fully accredited. He's actually got a couple of DOJ contracts under his company, and I brought the talent on board.
And you know what's good about this?
I also have 2 NASA engineers who specialize in artificial intelligence,
right,
and a lot of brainwave functionality technology with the neurotechnology industry. So the real play in the long run is leveraging everything I've created for the neurotechnology industry. We're taking this a whole nother level. We're understanding addiction, criminal mentality, early childhood trauma, to a whole nother level that most people can't even comprehend.
Well, I gotta tell you, our level of understanding of criminality. Criminality is one of the best things that ever happens to people. And people are like, oh my God, what the hell are you talking about? Well, according to the American Economist, it's the National Honor Society of all accountants in the country, okay? If you have a criminal tendency, you are more prone to self-employment because you're not risk averse. You are willing to take the proper risk required in order to succeed in the self-employment arena. Now, I tell this to a lot of guys, I said,
but you have to be willing to take the hits.
You bet you gotta go through the failures to get to the success. I 100% agree.
If life was all just green lights,
no,
it would be so boring.
No.
It wouldn't even be normal.
Listen,
you gotta have the reds and the yellows.
That's right.
The ups and the downs, because you don't learn anything.
Absolutely.
From success.
That's right.
Success is a byproduct of the rewards of failing and getting up.
That's right.
You only learn from the failures.
That's right.
And the trials and the tribulations.
That's right. But
so when life throws you some shit,
yeah,
embrace it. You know, and it's only a failure if you don't get your ass up.
Well, we believe there's no problems in the world, just solutions. But the reason you're sitting in that chair is because you're an integral part of how the person actually does get out and stay and to be successful in self-employment or any other arena. They gotta be drug-free. You gotta be drug-free.
You can get out of jail, prison, wherever you were, psych ward, wherever, jails, institutions, right? But if you don't make that if you don't make a long-term decision that you're gonna live your life clean from now on, no matter how much success you get, it's short-term. It's short-lived.
Yeah.
You know, if you want the long-term success and the real stability, you have to be sober.
Yes.
You can't have good housing. You can't have a good job. You can't have good things happen to you.
Right.
Long-term. You know, I just killed a big deal just about a week and a half ago.
Talk to me.
A real big deal with a outpatient facility.
Right.
With a big contract that would have made my company a lot of money.
Right.
Guy owns 7 facilities in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This guy called me up cursing at me, calling me every name under the sun. How dare you kill this deal with me, blah, blah, blah. I just said to him, I said, look, bro, you don't live right. You know, your businesses real soon, they're going to belong to the feds. And when you go down, I'm not getting impacted.
Okay, so what you're really talking about is some of the stuff that me and Charlie covered in our Plan After the Can course, and that is more like the drug rehab operators who seem to make so much money. We called those guys body brokers. Okay,
those are the worst.
You know,
but that's like basically
Medicaid fraud is what it is.
Substance abuse 101. It's like, you know, that's like selling drugs in this business.
Right.
You can't sell people. You have to do it the right way. There are laws, and if you don't know the rules to the game, you can't be playing the game.
Absolutely.
You're not gonna get on a football field without knowing the rules.
We believe one thing: bend the law all the way to never break it, but you can bend the shit out of it. Okay, that's called legal tax holes, deductions. All that stuff is a legal way to do that. But on another note, altogether, how many years did you do in the feds?
7.
Talk to me. What's the worst thing that happened, and what's the best thing that happened?
I've seen murders of, people died around me. One person died in my arms.
Really?
A war zone every day.
When you say died in your arm, did they OD? Or did they die unnatural? Did someone whack them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone not in the prison. It was an inside job.
Okay. Because everyone's telling me that some of the COs are worse than the prisoners.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty bad COs.
Right. They treat the prisoners like garbage, like rubbish.
Look, it's not a nice place.
No, I'm not. We call it vacation incarceration.
You don't want to land in prison, and even if you do get into prison, and then you say you want to change your life around, you just remember, you're around a bunch of sharks.
Oh yeah.
And just because they have a uniform on doesn't mean they're your friends.
Yeah.
So
what did you do every day in prison when you were there?
The first year, I did a lot of drugs. I did a lot of drinking. Right. I did a lot of politicking.
Well, was it easy to get drugs? Was it that the COs brought them in most likely? Or they used
It's actually a two-way street. Like, I know COs would bring in, but prisoners would also do their own operations.
They would use their suitcase.
Drones, visitors, you name it. There's always a hustle going on. But it's like, whatever you seek, you're gonna find.
Right.
I just came back from Colombia for 2 weeks. I was in Colombia. I didn't see a single drug in 2 weeks in Colombia, and I was in every part of Colombia. I was in the slums where most people don't even get out of alive. I've been in $1 million neighborhoods. I was from top to bottom. I was in Colombia. I didn't see a single drug in 2 weeks. I didn't smell a single drug.
I heard the drugs were being manufactured in the jungles down in Colombia, no?
I mean, I wasn't in the jungle.
No, I didn't think so, because...
But if I were to seek that, I'd find it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I couldn't get out of LaGuardia baggage claim without reeking of weed. Right. Just the second the doors open, you smell the crap in the air.
Right.
You know? But whatever you seek, you'll find. So to answer your question, after the first year, I'll tell you what, after the first year, I ended up in solitary confinement for 11 months. I did 11 months in solitary confinement.
Why? Pray tell, how did that happen?
I broke a couple of laws in prison.
Are they laws that no statute of limitations can pinch on?
No, I got...
Oh, then what's the laws? What did you break, bro?
Supposedly I stabbed somebody. But I'll tell you what. I got sentenced to 11 months.
In solitary?
Yeah.
Now, just so...
So I did 11 months.
Wow.
I don't want to shed too much light on why I was in here, but I got sentenced to 11 months, and there was this officer. He had the same last name as me. His name was Officer Cook, but he was like close to probably 7 feet tall.
Okay.
Probably about 3 feet wide.
Okay.
And Puerto Rican guy.
Okay.
Puerto Ricans aren't that big usually.
No, 7 foot tall.
So I would make jokes with him and say, Officer Cook, we're brothers from different mothers, blah, blah, blah. I would, schmooze him up a little bit.
Right.
I gave him information on where to get $5,000 on the outside.
Okay.
And I said, go bring me and Johnny Walker Blue.
Right.
And he said, no problem, Cook, I got you. With a straight face. Totally sold me. And the next day, I'm waiting for him. He says, after lunch, blah, blah, blah. He opens up my little door inside my door. And he throws me the blue book of AA, of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
And I threw that book against the wall, and I called him every derogatory name under the sun. And that book stayed there for probably like 6 weeks. Until my mind got so bored, I picked it up. And after I got to like page 6, I was like, oh my God, this book was written for me.
Right.
And at that time I was dry. I wasn't sober. There's a big difference between being dry and being sober. That's for another discussion.
Being dry, I mean, you didn't have any supply, so you mentally turned your head off.
You're not mentally sober.
Yeah, you do know, if you had it, you would do it.
So I got out of solitary confinement after 11 months. I probably read that book probably a dozen times.
The AA book.
Yeah. And when I got back into general population, I didn't even feel like I was in prison.
Right.
I was so committed to changing my life around. And to finally answer your question, how I did that time, I started buying thousands of dollars worth of books, all written by PhDs on learning the disease of addiction, my disease. And subconsciously what I was doing was I didn't want to be in this business ever. This was not my plan. I didn't intend to do this. I wanted to do other things with my life.
It was most likely a calling, bro.
Absolutely. What I was doing all that time, from the time I got out of solitary confinement to the time I got out of prison, was I was documenting, out of boredom, everything that was working for me.
Right.
Whatever didn't work, I threw it out. But I needed the other half of the understanding on the scientific level of how do I manage this thing in between my 2 years?
Right.
This whole world. How do I manage, a life of change? Because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I knew I was never going into this place ever again.
Now let me ask you a question. You said you
And that evolved into Sober and 40.
Right. I was going to get to that. But in other words, what you're really saying is, while you were incarcerated federally, you researched and really learned about addiction because of your own personal experience, but also the fact of you had the time on your hands finally. It's like you're going to college, but it's in the joint.
And on a different sidebar,
right,
like on the computer,
right.
I was also deeply involved in quantum physics and artificial intelligence.
Yes.
So,
a series that me and Charlie are very well versed in, by the way.
So not realizing that my path of just living was going to cross-collateralize everything that I basically studied and merged it all together. So, my advice to anyone who's listening, who's struggling with where they're going in life, you just have to just keep living and doing what you're passionate about doing. Eventually you'll figure it out and it'll all come together.
Right.
Right,
well, my question is, how did you get the books? Did they block books that were going to be in the prison? How did you get the books?
I would have my people on the outside mail them into me.
And that was no problem? Because our books...
The only problem that they would give is sometimes they wouldn't like the hardcover.
Okay.
And they would just rip it.
Okay.
A lot of books will not show up, but you just keep sending them. Eventually they'll get through.
Right.
You just keep sending the books.
Okay. But I mean, how did you know which books to get? Like, how did you literally say, I want a book on
So I would
quantum
have
physics?
I would have my people on the outside mail me reviews
Okay.
and summaries of books
Got it.
this big. Then I would check them off and remail it out and say, get me this, and this. And then those 10 books would last me a couple weeks.
Because most books I thought go through Books for Prisoners and some other companies that actually...
Yeah, you gotta buy them the legal way.
Okay.
And you gotta go through the legal channels.
Okay.
But even when you buy them the legal ways, they sometimes don't get through. But
So-
when you have enough time on your hands,
Right.
you figure things out.
Did you have access to a computer in the joint?
The only access I had to a computer, I don't know, I think they're doing now tablet. They're doing tablets in most prisons now.
Yeah, they're charging a hell of a lot of money for access
Yeah.
to those tablets, as well as telephone calls now. Cost a lot.
I'll tell you what. The amount of money that inmates would pay for minutes on this system called TrueLinks
Right.
would probably be equal to what, or less than what they're spending on the tablet.
Well,
I used to spend hundreds of dollars a week
Right.
just on email minutes.
Right.
On a basic email platform special for inmates.
Right. And it monitored as well. so
Oh,
you
of
had-
course.
you
It
know.
goes through the lieutenant and the warden before it goes out.
Let me ask you
It
now,
would be like an hour to 2 hour lag on messages that go back and forth.
what kind of hustles did you have? How did you make money for your commissary? Besides the fact you
I didn't have time to hustle.
Well, that's what I'm asking. You didn't have time, but you had time to read the books.
Yeah, well, a lot of people who have their hustles, that's what they do full time. They have a store. They do laundry for people. I can write a whole book on hustles inside
Well,
prison.
what's the best
But
hustle you saw?
I didn't have time to personally hustle because
Well-
I was building and creating.
Well, you were hustling. You were hustling privately. Honestly, you
I was
were
creating
actually...
Sober and 40.
You were soul
But
searching.
I just wasn't being paid.
Right, but I'm saying more like you were doing a soul searching thing to help yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Not knowing probably...
That this was going to be for
Wow,
others.
it's going to morph into... I'm going to help a lot of guys who have a drug problem. I conquered
But
mine.
this is how life works.
Yeah.
Is you go through shit not knowing, and you only figure out why things happen when you have enough time. Like when you keep doing the right thing and you let enough time get in between the frustration of not understanding a certain specific thing, time gives you the answers.
Right.
So you can't get frustrated. You can't make stupid decisions. You got to just keep doing the right thing, and eventually the answers will come to you on why things happen and why you did what you did. And
So basically what you're really saying is the AA book that you left sit there for 6 weeks on the floor in the corner.
Saved my
somewhere.
life.
Exactly. So theoretically...
But Sober and 40 is not AA related.
No.
It's not the material. It's a fresh, totally new program. It's got criminal mentality, a lot of criminal mentality in it built in.
Right.
Cognitive behavioral
I
therapy,
mean-
mindfulness, emotional intelligence. It's my own program.
Right.
A lot of times people who write books, when they are heavily influenced on other things, I can tell where they got that material from.
Right.
My
Right.
program is so fresh, you're like, this is not AA.
Absolutely.
Look, I love AA. And for me personally,
Right.
it's a long-term solution. There's no ending to it.
Right.
But I've had AA people tell me, like, your program changed my life. It made me realize and understand things about myself that I could have never done on my own.
Now, back to the monetization. You're getting Medicaid to pay for the, obviously through the doctor, and it's going to be an insurance claim. I'm sure they have.
But I don't make these claims on my own.
No, you can't. You're not a doctor.
Well, I'm a felon.
Let's talk about that.
You can't bill Medicaid if you're a felon.
Got it, Bill. There you go. Can't bill Medicaid if you're a felon.
You can't bill private insurance if you're a felon.
Really. But, big but, you can go directly to consumers if you're a felon. And the American system of entrepreneurism works very well for felons. Because
The way I structured my business, I don't bill any Medicaid or Medicare.
No, the doctor would do it though, right?
It's their client. We have other services as well. So
You're the parent company.
Inside prison,
You bill them.
Right.
They bill whatever they want to bill.
So basically, in Sober and 40 for the prisoners,
right.
they have a live peer advocate, a licensed peer advocate, reviewing their program every day and communicating with them for at least an hour a day on email. So your program is being followed by an actually human being.
Got it.
And you also get access to some group therapy sessions and some one-on-ones inside the prison.
Okay.
So it's a real nice system that complements each other.
At the tail end of this, because there's one subject we want to cover since you. How much of a threat is artificial intelligence to human beings?
Right now, 0.
Okay, tell me why.
It's like a tool. And for every new tool that's been implemented into society,
Right.
human beings have felt the same threat.
Give me an example.
This is the tractor trailer.
Okay.
Can you just imagine what those farmers felt back then when the tractor trailer was being introduced? It only enhanced their business.
Right.
It only allowed them to grow more. I'll tell you what should be the biggest threat. The biggest threat should be sitting on your ass and not changing with society and learning how to use these tools in your business. Every industry since 1900s has been influenced by technology. The health industry, the food industry,
Right.
the printing industry, you name it, every industry.
Right.
The real estate industry.
Right.
So if you just choose to say, I'm not doing this anymore,
Well-
I'm not going with the flow,
Well,
you're going to choose to dig your own grave.
right. Well, back in 2009, Facebook had bots that was artificial intelligence that would scroll through the internet and actually pick up the,
With basic functions. Very functions.
basic. What happens? These bots actually started their own language, and Facebook had to literally shut the program down because they didn't like humans. It was almost like one of those Terminator moments in life.
It was so wildly uncontrollable that
Exactly.
they couldn't figure out how to control it.
But Elon Musk himself
It's like
came out.
a virus.
But you saw that Elon Musk warned the whole world about AI, right? Elon Musk himself said, listen, this is out of control because investors are putting all this money in. There's 2 forms of AI I found out. There's artificial intelligence and there's artificial general intelligence. The artificial general intelligence is not just artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence goes to the internet and takes the same exact information that we do. And that's the ones that the kids like, hey, I have to do my report with this guy. It's AI, yeah. AGI, general intelligence. Oh my God. That's the problem they ran into because the artificial general intelligence actually takes all the stuff on the internet, internalizes it, and draws their own damn conclusions.
Do you like how Google provides searches all the time?
Oh yeah, I love Google searches. It's all their own searches and they control the game. I do.
That's their algorithms.
Yeah.
I don't like it sometimes. I don't agree with it sometimes.
Right.
But guess what? We live in a world where there's like 500 different types of search engines out there.
Well, what I'm saying about AI...
Like there's not just one AI.
No.
Like there's like 100 different AI platforms today.
Right.
And you get to choose which AI platform that suits you
Well,
best.
what I'm saying, you're using AI. You're using AI in sober.
But those are my proprietary algorithms that we created.
Right. You know, when you say algorithms, explain to the audience. Because when I say algorithms, I think audience.
So when you're interacting with Sober and 40,
Yes.
you're not interacting with a robot who's talking to you and you're getting that OpenAI, ChatGPT style communication. You don't get that with my program. I discovered through sobriety and through understanding sobriety that when you ask a person the right questions, you not only get them to think differently, but you get them to understand and get that light bulb moment on their own. My secret sauce in Sober and 40 is in the delivery of my follow-up questions.
Right.
You're not getting like the chat robot like messaging you, blah, 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 blah. I've developed algorithms that understand you and what you're struggling with. And we put it in the form of questions. And when you answer, if I keep tweaking you and get you to the right place, you will then get the light bulb moment on your own. I can't just say, look, Timothy, you suck. You're struggling with this and this and this and that. Get your shit together. That goes out this ear, that ear, not the other. That did nothing to help you out. But if I asked you questions in thought-provoking ways to get to you, your brain, to think differently on your own, that's where you're going to get real change.
Let me give you an example, possibly. So one of the questions you might ask might be, how many times a day do you use cocaine? And if I say...
Well, that's on my onboarding process.
Oh, okay. I'm just thinking like, 10 times a day. How does it make you feel? Well, I feel fucking great.
So you're talking like as if you're a therapist.
No, yeah.
And what happens is therapists go to school on how to learn how to unfuck people's minds.
Right.
But the problem with therapists, and I'm not saying like let's get rid of humanity, but the problem with a lot of therapists is that they have a lot of human bias.
Right.
And the problem with that is you might be sitting in front of a client and thinking about, what a misogynistic pig he is, or, how much he smells like shit,
right.
or he's bullshitter, or this and that. And let's get back to the science. They're trained to create a psychological profile on their patients, right? And when you create that psychological profile, you can then take the next step and learn how to properly treat and move forward. My algorithms create that psychological profile with no human bias. So once we understand what you're struggling with, the algorithms take you down a different wormhole and only focus on the things that we know you're struggling with. So when you go to the hospital and you tell the doctor, I think I broke my left arm, they're going to look at your right arm, they're going to compare the motion from your right arm to your left arm, but eventually they're never looking at your right arm again. They're putting all that attention on what's broken. That's what we do. We figure out what's broken and what you're struggling with and give that extra attention with the formulation of the right questions and get you to get onto this process of, take the bull by its horns.
So the quantum physics part of this would be most likely in the synapses?
Well, there's no quantum physics in this part yet.
No? Okay.
Not yet. This is all AI,
okay.
And it's our secret sauce.
Okay, but I mean, it might be AI, in other words, you could ask me all the questions. If I'm a guy fiending for a drug, and you're going to say to me all these wonderful questions to change my mindset. But on a physical level, when I stopped smoking, I was a power smoker, bro. I used to smoke 3 packs a day. Charlie will tell you, I used to go to the Indian reservation, and I would get a carton of cigarettes for $10. And I would have literally 2 cigarettes lit in this ashtray, another one on the other way. I was an animal. You would come in this office, you'd be like, wow, Jesus, it smells like a,
What? Now, you don't reek of cigarettes anymore, so did you stop?
5 years ago.
Let's go back to the times when you would chain smoke.
Totally.
What was going on in your mind at that time?
I felt that was part of who I was. I was so identified
You
to that.
created a relationship with that cigarette.
Absolutely.
You not only created a relationship with that cigarette, you created a relationship with the whole process of getting the cigarette. Of getting in the car, starting the engine, going to the store, meeting the guy.
That's right.
Saying something to him, taking the money out of your pocket.
That's right.
It was a whole chain process.
And I would smoke with other people. We socialized too. It was a socialization.
It became who you were.
Exactly.
And somewhere down the line, when you decided to stop, you made a decision to break up with that person.
That's right. That's right. And when I made that decision, I tried everything. Okay, I tried so many stuff. I literally, Nicorette gum. I did anything under the stars, the sun, and the moon to try to not hypnosis, everything.
If I told you to stand on your head and do 100,
I would have done it. But guess what? Didn't work. Then I watched a guy on YouTube.
So what was it that got you to that?
A guy on YouTube convinced me that only one solution to my problem was something I was so freaking uncomfortable with. I did not want to do. I laughed at the guy. I thought the guy was full of shit. I had to literally stop. The mindset of that I'm not that person anymore. I changed. The metamorphosis going from the caterpillar to the butterfly. I butterflied out and I never looked back. To this day, people could smoke in front of me, and I look at them and I feel like I actually feel empowered. Like not that I'm better than them, but like, yeah, I beat it. You only wish you beat it, because I know when I was a smoker, I always wanted to beat it. I couldn't beat the damn thing. My father died at 54 from smoking. I stopped smoking at 54. That was the
I know people that stopped drinking in their 70s, and they just literally, that was their aha moment.
Yeah.
So it's a blessing that you were able to kick it in your 50s.
Yeah, I had 4 kids. I had to do it. That was my main thing was the kids. To stop. I wanted to see them at least for the next 20 years.
You have to create a reason. You have to create a purpose. You have to live for something outside of yourself.
Anyway, one last thing. The last thing we're going to talk about is the first class system versus the second class system. This is important. A lot of guys that we talk about with the education. What kind of education? A lot of the therapists that are in the prison systems, and I'm sure you can testify to this, I don't know what kind of rehabilitation they have. When you're getting out, what do they do to aid you when you're getting, hey, Spence, you're getting out. Hey, how many years did you actually serve? Did you do the
7.
whole? Hey, Spence, 7 years. Your 7-year vacation into incarceration's over. Okay, where you going, to Disneyland? No. Where you going? What are you gonna do?
I couldn't afford. I got out of prison pissed broke. I couldn't get onto my first vacation until at least 2 years later.
But no, I'm saying when I say vacation, I mean you.
No, like a real.
You're trying a real vacation.
I had real life to catch up on. You know, the real bills catch up on you. You know, life was not fun.
What programs did they have to when you got out? They said, hey, before you get out, what's your rehabilitation? Any programs that they offered you? Because most of the psychologists that are in there, they tell a lot of guys, get an education, get a college degree.
I got myself a shrink.
Okay.
I saw him once or twice a week. I made that part of my daily routine until I was good enough to just, look, the world changed a lot when I got out. And when you're inside...
When you say it changed a lot when you got out, what do you mean?
The whole world was different.
Well, tell me, give me an example.
I went in with an iPhone 2.
Okay. You had an iPhone 2?
I had an iPhone 2.
When'd you come out? What was it? So you didn't have to flip at least?
No, they made me get a flip phone right when I got out. When I was in a halfway house. I couldn't get... You're not allowed to have a smartphone.
Oh, only a flip phone?
Yeah. I think the rules might have changed today. But when I got out, you were only allowed to have a flip phone.
Now, what made you want to do this program?
I really I wanted to be in the quantum technology industry. I loved working on quantum physics, the entanglement of particles and protons.
Okay, but how did that morph into...
I couldn't... So I did 2 little jobs for a doctor, and you need national security clearance.
Right.
Couldn't get it.
Right.
So something in my life had to give. And I said, maybe what I've been telling myself that I never wanted to get into all this time was my calling and my purpose.
Good.
And that's where my passion and my purpose collided. And I was totally convinced that, this is where the universe wants me. This is where God wants me.
So your 7 years of hell in incarceration is going to eventually lead to a lifetime.
Look, anything you do successfully, money will come.
Yes.
But my first drive is not money.
Oh, no, absolutely.
You can't buy me to do anything I don't want to do that doesn't meet my purpose and my goals.
Right.
My short-term and long-term.
This is the new Spence.
This is me.
The new Spence.
Yeah.
The old Spence, we all, look.
Look, I didn't need anyone to co-sign my bullshit. If I co-signed it in my mind, I did it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But look, find whatever you're good at. Do it really good. Do it over and over again. Don't expect to get paid. Eventually, the world will get to a point where they're going to start paying you to do what you do best.
And in Japan, they call that ikigai. We actually have it in our course. It's actually ikigai, which that's the Japan way of picking out what business they should go into. That's the truth.
Do what you just love to do, even if you weren't getting paid to do it.